Welcome today to a wonderful presentation around integration that we lovingly call the integration landscape at SAP Concur. My name is Bob Hutton. I'm a director of product marketing here at SAP Concur, and I align to the integration portfolio. And the reason I get so excited about this particular topic is because it is not only so important to our customers and the organizations that work with SAP Concur, but it's also something gets brought up almost on every call. How do we integrate? How does Concur information flow to another system? This is a very, very important topic. And unfortunately, it sometimes brings a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of trepidation, just by the nature of integration. There's a lot of IT essentially connotation, and do I have the right prerequisites to do it? So hopefully, with this short call, this short presentation, we're going to be able to mitigate some of that anxiety, mitigate some of that trepidation, so that you can truly tackle the integration landscape with SAP Concur and your other systems. Now, I like to start these calls typically with just calling the elephant out in the room, that there is some anxiety when it comes to this, because integrations can be complicated and they can be complex, but it doesn't mean that you can't tackle them in a very simplistic way. And I think of that kind of like taxes. I know nothing about taxes. I'm not an accountant, but I still have to do them, and I know that I have to accomplish them. And the cool thing about integrations that are similar to taxes is that there's several ways to complete them, which we will go over today. So if you had tried to find a pathway previously and it just didn't work out, and you just have some hesitation to try again, just know that there's a couple different ways to do this. And also, you don't need an advanced IT degree to do it as well. One of the biggest things that we're going to highlight today is the power of the team, how you bring these various stakeholders in to provide guidance, including our own Concur account team. So you are not doing this alone, and you don't have to if you think you need to. One thing that we've seen time and time again, and that's so important for the integration, is that they tend to lead to more work if you don't tackle them or if you ignore them. So this is another thing why we bring this up, is because if you are able to essentially get this solved early as your company evolves, those integrations evolve with them, versus starting at a complex level and trying to accomplish so much in a small amount of time. Not always the case, or not always the option, but it is something, if you haven't tackled already, to definitely start down that path. And this is what I'll leave with on this particular slide, is that technology is constantly evolving, as we all know. So even if you did evaluate integrations, or you were looking at automating some processes with interconnectedness through integration earlier, even this year or last year, it's likely that technology has changed to make that more available. Maybe there's a new API that came out that will allow you to do what you need to do. So always reevaluate because the technology is always shifting. So why do we integrate? Why are we even looking at doing this? What are some of the benefits? Well, when we talk with customers, and what we've seen is that everyone is looking for one source of truth. They want harmonized data. So you have your travel and expense data from Concur, you have an HR system, you got information in there, you have a CRM system, you have an ERP. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. I think someone told me the other day that they had 20 to 30 systems that they needed to have integrated. That's a lot of information flowing. And a lot of times, some of it is duplicative work, right? And sometimes when you are doing duplicative work, you have errors. So one of the huge benefits of integrating all your systems together and achieving that one source of truth is you reduce that errors. So let's say I have to put information to my HR system, which is very common, and then you have to put it in your T&E system, very, very common as well. There's no, I missed a digit or I missed a number, because you get it right one place, you get it right in the next, and so on and so forth. So it is a way for you to reduce those errors and really be more efficient in that regard. Because there's less errors, you can be more confident in having more informed decision making. So when you have your information flowing and it's up to date, and you have a lot of faith in it because you know that they're built in that regard, then when you make a decision, you know that you're going to have all the various data points included in that decision. So what we see from a lot of finance leaders is they're using a ERP or reporting system to aggregate a lot of that information and really build out their reports so that they can make those decisions for forecasting or budgeting. It makes a lot of sense when you have your spend data from T&E or your revenue potential from your CRM and your employee information from HR all within one system. That only really works if you have an integrated landscape. So having all of this information interconnected really does create a much more informed decision-making process and gives you a lot more faith in that information as well. And all that to say, one of the easiest things to say when it comes to integration is just higher productivity and reduced operational costs. In my mind, integration is that first step to automation. How do you automate things? Well, you have to have them talk to each other and, tell one system that another system is doing something else. So by having that integrated landscape, you can create a lot more automation, you'll have a lot more productivity, and you will reduce that operational cost. So just 3 main benefits. There is a litany of other ones as well, and your organization might be separate in that, but there are a ton of benefits by making sure your systems talk to each other. So kind of going back to the original point I made at the start of this presentation is, where do we start? Where do we begin this? And you said I didn't need an IT degree, but I still don't know where to start. Well, at the end of the day, it comes down to, what challenges are you looking to overcome? Now, talking with customers and our IT team and our customer-facing individuals, this is something that they bring up early and often. What are you really looking to overcome? What are the challenges that you have? And I think this is extremely important, because if you know what challenges you're looking to overcome, then it really helps every other decision to be made that much quicker, because you're very isolated and you know what you want. And this may not be just you. This is where it comes into growing that team, that integrated team within your own organization, or if you're bringing in the Concur account team as well. What other challenges are different stakeholders in your organization having, and then making sure that there might be some overlap or some similarities. So the idea is to ensure that whatever you're looking for is articulated very early in the process, so that everything that you do after that is looking to overcome that. And also bringing some of those hesitancies to the table too. Some individuals have concerns, and it's good to bring those concerns up early, because it could be something where it is not something that should be a concern. One concern for someone might not be a concern for another. Or if you have to work with your IT team and you have concern over something, they might come back and tell you that is not a concern, that will take us 5 minutes. I'm using a kind of a weak example there, but at the same time, I think of it as, you don't know what you don't know, and bringing in that broader team is going to be extremely beneficial for you. And at the end of the day, all that is to turn all these challenges. You might have employee provisioning, you might have financials, you might have workflows, you might have images. Again, these might be different stakeholders. Your HR person might want to have employee provisioning done a lot easier. Your finance team might want to have financials more streamlined, and everyone might want to have a better workflow. But the idea is to take these challenges and turn them into solutions. Again, all funneling back into data harmonization and that one source of truth, so you can start seeing those intrinsic benefits. So now you've isolated your challenges, you've got your team, you're working towards those goals. Where do we start? What's the how? How do we integrate? So I will caveat this particular slide with, there is a limitation for us if your system does not actually allow that action to happen. I like to say that technology is not magic. There are limitations, but most of them can be adjusted for. However, if you are working on a 1950s system that's a green screen that doesn't allow any information to be put into it, not much we can do there. But that kind of goes along with what technologies are emerging to make a lot of this happen. So there are options, and these are the ones that we provide here at Concur. So there's always the manual flat file import export. You export your information, you upload it to another system. There are some partners that do this more manually, or more automated rather, but that is going to be more on the DIY side of the house. Moving along, you're going to have the secure FTP. So this is where we host an SFTP site for you. We will push information into that, but you do have to extract it from there. So we are taking it out of our system, but there is a requirement that you or your IT team would have to grab that information. This is actually a pretty common one. From what I understand, most IT teams have the ability to pull this information, so it doesn't seem to be a big hiccup for them. Client web services, this is where we get into more of the customized with APIs. So this just allows you to have access to our API library so that you can build out your own custom integrations. Typically, this requires not necessarily a huge IT presence at your company, but definitely someone with good development abilities and the ability to work with APIs. And we'll get a little bit more into that in a second because I want to make sure that that value is realized with client web services. It's a very robust service. And then moving to the right, this is the more white glove service. It'd be more your pre-built integrations. So SAP Concur has built out some out-of-the-box integrations that are easy to set up, but they are tailored to some very specific systems. So if you happen to have one, then that is a very good option. You also have the ability to go into our Concur App Center. There's a lot of partners in there, over 300, that can actually give you an out-of-the-box solution that they might have developed for your very specific system, or they can do custom work. I've seen both ways. And then we also have our own in-house Concur team that will build out custom integrations for you. They will meet with you, they'll get your requirements, and they will build that out for you, and they will support it for you in the future as well. So added benefits all around. It just depends. A lot of what is on the slide just depends on the resources that you have at your organization and the limitations of your core system software. Now, just to double tap a little bit into the client web services. This is a secure open platform. This is really just access to those APIs, like I said before. But what's really cool about this is that this is ever expanding. So our APIs that we provide to your IT team and your developers are constantly getting better, and we're expanding them to do other things as well. So if you had looked at this previously and you thought, well, it doesn't provide enough, that might have changed, kind of going back to emerging technologies. So you do have to have your own development team for this particular service in order to have it done, or contract with a third party to utilize this information. But we are not going to leave you alone either. So you're going to get 10 hours of setup and consulting rather, to actually help you along this journey as well. So you might have a developer that gets you, pretty far along. He might have a question. He can reach out to the team and work that question. Now, if you are completely relying on a third party, or you don't have an in-house IT, the option of the Concur team to actually build out those custom integrations is something maybe you should look at. They will meet with you, and what's really good about this team is that they are experts in integrations and connections. They have worked with a whole host of different customers across every size of business. And what's interesting about this team is that they have a lot of context because they've probably worked with the same systems that you're using today. So similar HR systems, similar CRM systems, and they can build out a tailored approach with not only knowledge of how to do it, but also the context from other customers' use cases. So it's kind of a really good opportunity to get an answer from somebody that's had to give that answer consistently. So, and on top of that, you also do receive ongoing support. So unlike the client web services, if your IT team leaves or something happens, you are expected to support your own integrations because those are custom to you. Our team will support the ones that they build. Now, this has been a really quick overview. I hope that you found a lot of good points of reference, but I want to go over them really quick one more time just to really get a roadmap of how to solve for integration. So again, isolating those challenges. We say it early, we say it often, we say it at the end. Isolate the challenges you want to solve. Bring that to the team so that they can help you build out what that integration looks like. Research the options. Again and again, we see individuals that may have read something or researched something last year or the year before. It could have changed 3 times since then. So just research as much as you can. This is where you bring in your Concur team. This is where you bring in your various stakeholders, your IT team, to determine what you have available. And that kind of goes to the next point, validating your resource requirements and if external resourcing is required. Sometimes when we're working with customers, they just don't have that IT staff and they're looking for something either more out of the box, or they're looking for someone just to host it and do it for them. It all depends on what you have available at your organization, and not only in the near term, but also looking long term as well. Again, we say it often again that SAP Concur account team is really looking for you to succeed. So bringing them in so they can bring in other stakeholders, other project members to join that project team is going to be a wealth of knowledge for you and really help push this project along. And all at the end of the day, this is just to implement and see value. We want to make sure that these integrations work. We want to make sure that they get that automation and drive that value for you, and really see all the fruits of that labor. So hoping that this whole session was able to mitigate some of that anxiety, potentially give you some options on where to start, and really just have a full circle on the integration landscape. So again, thank you so much for attending this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.